So I did the case of JD versus Powlett School District. Now, this case revolves around parents, as most of them do, parents advocating for their child. JD is a gifted student who attended two separate elementary schools and was successful in both of them, going above and beyond grade level expectations with his grades. He actually skipped sixth grade because he showed such high academic ability and achievement. And then they documented the success in seventh and eighth grade testing. In seventh grade, he took an IQ test and he actually scored in the top 2% of his age group. Again, in eighth grade, he took a test called the Comprehensive Test of Basic Skills. And even his lowest grade on spelling put him at the high end of his grade level. And his academic success kept going into the ninth grade when he received A's and B's. And there's some talk about his grades going down a little bit, and for a short while, and that's important to keep in mind when they get into the due process later, because that was a point that was brought up, was his achievement went down for just a short amount of time. And we have to remember that in special education, when a student shows a decline in achievement, if it's very, very minimal or for a very short amount of time, it's usually not brought back to a need for special education. It's for special education, we have to show that there's an adverse effect to a certain amount, and the abilities affected to a certain amount as well. And the whole achievement issue will become a factor when they go to the due process hearing. So even above and beyond this achievement, the parents still felt that JD needed special education services. Well, he was assessed and found to be ineligible. His emotional disability that he did show was not seeming to affect his education, but they decided that he was eligible for a 504 plan and could be offered support through that. It wasn't enough for his parents, and they enrolled JD in a boarding school, which was at the collegiate level, a program for the gifted. And they did this before they even waited for the case to be reviewed at the state level. And the school that JD went to was a tuition-funded school, and the parents, of course, wanted to be reimbursed because they felt that their child wasn't given the education originally that he deserved at the Powlett School District. So it's important to remember that JD has been successful in his learning environment and education to date. He showed no signs of struggling academically, and the school tried to rectify the emotional piece of his school experience by understanding and coming up with a plan for his emotional disability. And when the case went to due process, the academic achievements, timelines of assessment, and access to appropriate education would all come into play. Prior to this case going to due process, the family was offered options. The options are critical because reasonable accommodations were in question during the process as well. These options prove that the school offered and intended to follow through with the student's 504 plan. Furthermore, this proved that the school and district provided the child with a free, appropriate public education. Arguments came up in the due process hearing regarding the appropriateness of education and the effects of the emotional disability on the child. Based on school records, teacher comments, and tests administered, it was found that the student education was not adversely affected by the disability in the first place, so he didn't need to change schools necessarily, and the family would not be eligible for tuition reimbursement as the options laid out for them by the school district satisfied the laws of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And like I said, the boarding school is not a necessary place for the child to receive the appropriate education, so the family was not eligible for tuition reimbursement. Thank you.